Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of our unit, New York City, a City of Immigrants. Before we get started, we're going to talk about the 5 moments of today's lesson so we understand exactly what we're going to do today. So the first moment will be our do now, which is a see, think, and wonder activity. Then we have our before reading experience. We're going to think about what we read in the last session about the Wong family. Then we have another text about the Wongs. We're going to learn more about their experience by reading a second text, and we have some discussion questions with that as well. Then our after reading experience. Teachers, this is going to involve a video. Here's the link right in the slide. This takes you to the Tenement Museum's webpage. You're going to scroll down to the third video here about Kevin. This is the video we're using for the after reading activity. If you would like to use the transcript, it's going to be located at this link here in the note for teachers, opens up the text. And on the second page, in the blue box, you'll find the transcript for the video if you want to use that for the activity. After the after reading, there is the closing and connection, 4 different options, and you can choose whichever one is going to work best for you and your students. As usual, remember below we have the note for teachers. These are kind of tips and guidelines for implementing today's lesson. So let's go ahead and let's get started. We are on day 2 of our unit, New York City, a City of Immigrants. We are with the Wong family, who we learned about in the first session. Our essential question is the same: how can objects represent our stories and our values? Last time we talked about objects, just a thing, could be big, small, special, ordinary, can be food. And we're going to talk today again about how they can represent our stories and our values. Our text today is titled Creating a Life in the United States as a Family. At this point, could somebody please read the lesson objectives for today? They're down here in this pink box. Teachers, you can pause this video and give students a few minutes to read out loud the lesson objectives. Okay, thank you for reading those. So the first one is to make logical inferences from a text, providing evidence when writing or speaking to support those conclusions. The second lesson objective, to participate in a range of conversations and collaborations, building on the ideas of others. So in the first, we're using evidence from the text to think of ideas and inferences and use that evidence to support them in our writing or speaking. In the second lesson objective, we are speaking in conversation and collaboration with our peers to build on each other's ideas. Let's get into our do now. So just like before, we have an image. We're going to do a see, think, wonder. So looking at this image here, ask yourself, what do you see? What do you think? And what do you wonder about this image, right? And if you need a little bit of help starting out your thought, you have your sentence starters here in the box with the bright green top. And it says, in the image I see, I think that, one thing I wonder is. Let's look at an example. So before you begin, you have a better idea of what we're doing. Here's an example. In the image, I see 3 different beds, right? 1, 2, 3. So I see 3 different beds. I think that 3 people had to share the desk, right? I see 1 desk and again, 3 beds. So I'm thinking 3 people have to share that 1 desk. My last thing is, one thing I wonder is, who lived in this room? Who lived here? So now it's your turn, again, using the sentence starters if you want. In the image I see, I think that, one thing I wonder is. So teachers, at this moment, you can pause this video and give the students a few minutes to either speak out loud, write into the chat, or write into a Google Doc, Google Slide, or any other application you're using to say what they think, they see, think, and wonder. Thank you guys so much for sharing your thoughts for our opening. So let's go into the before reading activity. So again, this is reminding us what we learned from the last session about the Wong family. So thinking back to the last lesson and the text getting here, what are some things that you can recall about the Wong family's immigration experience? So what do you remember about their experience? We're going to look for two details. So as one example, right, I remember that Mrs. Wong had too much to carry. She had too much to carry. Okay, so when you're thinking of your own two details, two ways you could start off writing or saying those. I remember that, or they said that. You could use something completely different, but if you would like to, use these, you can. So at this moment, teachers, again, you can pause this video and have students think of their two details about the last lesson and the text getting here. What do they remember about the Wong family's immigration experience? Okay, now that everybody has had some time to think about their details about the Wong family's immigration experience, we're going to share with our classmates. So you guys are going to exchange them, either if they're written into the chat or a document, you can read other students' responses, or maybe you've shared out loud and you've gotten a chance to hear what your peers have to say. Teachers, again, this is a moment where we can pause this video and give the students some time, if they need it, to read each other's responses, to read these two details about the Wong family. Okay, so now we're here to step 3, which is to revise your sentence by adding or correcting a detail. So I'm going to show you an example of what this could look like. You remember here for step 1, I said, I remember that Mrs. Wong had too much to carry. That was one detail that I remembered. So if I were to add a detail and revise this, I'm going to add a detail. Now it reads, I remember that Mrs. Wong had too much to carry at the airport. So now I'm remembering from the text, and maybe someone told me when I shared this with them, that this was happening to her when she was at the airport to travel to New York City. Okay, so I'm just adding in that detail of the setting of the place. You might want to add a detail to your own or to correct it. If you said remembered something incorrectly, and a peer was able to tell you the correct information, you might want to rewrite it or resay it to correct that detail. So teachers, again here, pause and give students some time to do this third step to revise by adding or maybe correcting a detail. Okay, thank you for doing our before reading activity. Now, before we go into the text, we're going to discuss the purpose and the academic vocabulary down at the bottom of the page. So the purpose, before we begin to read, is to think about how we've already heard the Wong's story about getting here, and now we're going to read about how life began for the Wongs in New York City, how their life began in New York City. We have again our academic vocabulary, and as a reminder, if you ever want to remind yourself, these are actual links that will take you to definitions. We have advocate or advocate, which is when you're fighting for something that you believe in. You have a cause that you think is right, then you will support it as an advocate, or you will advocate for that cause. And our second word, diverse, which means a group made up of people or things that are very different from each other. Okay, so just a lot of difference within one group. If your class mixes kids from all over the world, you could call it diverse. Okay, so going into our text, teachers, again, you have the link here. It'll take you to a PDF. And today you are reading this section that's in the gray box here. You have guiding questions in this red box, and then going back to the slides, you have additional discussion questions afterwards right here in gray. Okay, so let's go ahead and start reading.